Let's interpret the domain and range of real-world function graphs. Number 3. This graph represents the amount of water in gallons in a swimming pool as a function of time in hours. Step number 1. Sketch the function graph using the description. Over here is our description of this function graph, and we will use this information to sketch the graph. At time 0, there were 20 gallons. That's our first ordered pair in this function graph. It's a precise point. At 0 time, we had 20 gallons. After 5 hours, there were 10 gallons, the lowest water level on the graph. So we know two things. One is that at time 5, we have an ordered pair at 10 gallons. And also we know that this graph will never go lower than 10 gallons at any other point in between. Between hours 0 and 2, there was a little increase in gallons. You can draw this increase however you would like, but remember it's a little increase, so don't go up too drastically. Between hours 2 and 3, the pool was filled to a maximum peak of 45 gallons. Between these 2 hours, 2 and 3, the graph will get to the highest point, and that highest point will be 45 gallons, which is around this area here between the 50 and 40 grid lines. After hour 3, the water level decreased, and we also know that it never went below 10 gallons. At hour 5, it ended at 10 gallons of water. How did we sketch the function graph? We sketched the function graph by reading the information about the graph and using that to either put ordered pairs, increases or decreases, maximum points and minimum points, and connect the graph to graph our complete function. Step 2. Determine the function's domain and range. The domain is a set of all input values, so we can find an input value starting with 0. At 0 hours, we had 20 gallons of water. We can find output values for all the inputs between 0 and 1, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, all the way up to 5 hours. That's the last place where this graph gives us information where an input value can give us an output value. So the domain is between 0 and 5 hours. The range is a set of all output values, all the different amounts of water that were in the swimming pool between this domain time. There was never less than 10 gallons and there was never more than 45 gallons in the swimming pool. Every value in between was a quantity that the swimming pool at one point contained. So the range is between 10 and 45 gallons. How did we determine the domain and range? We determined the domain by finding the set of all input values that had output values available, seeing that the first one occurred at 0 hours and the last one occurred at 5 hours, and the continuous line tells us that every time in between also has an output value. And we found the range by finding out what's the minimum output value and the maximum output value. Between hours 0 and 5, the pool was filled to some amount between 10 and 45 gallons. You are now ready to interpret the domain and range of real-world function graphs for problem number 4.